For the sake of your own sanity, I strongly advise avoiding any kind of debate with so-called libertarian socialists, as you are likely to come away having lost several IQ points through osmosis. But if you do have this unhappy experience, it's very likely that the French Revolution, or Liberte, will come up. Although not the inconvenient fact that this period in history included what is now called the Reign of Terror. It would probably be easier to list the things the French got right rather than what they got wrong. But, what the heck? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, they make a heck of a baguette. So, yes, the French. Now, don't get me wrong. The French have had some brilliant free market proponents. Bastiat, Say, originators of the term laissez-faire economics. No, the ideas are all there. But somehow, they never really trickled down to the point of being meaningful in French society. Which is why today we have such a confused, incoherent mix of random policies over there. Best thing you can say about them is that they're not as bad as they are in some other places. Wow. To get to the root of this problem, we must go back in time to the founding principles of the French Revolution, 1789. The early days of the revolution and the soon-to-be headless Maximilien Robespierre. We'll get to those principles in a minute, but you get a sense of where this is all headed, so to speak, in the following quote from good old Max on the question of whether or not the revolutionaries should execute the king. Yes, the death penalty is in general a crime, unjustifiable by the indestructible principles of nature, except in cases protecting the safety of individuals or the society altogether. Translation: executing someone is always an indisputable crime against nature unless it's super convenient for me. This was an early indicator of the logical contradictions the French started running into soon after the Revolution. Another early indicator. The French motto to this day is liberty, equality, and fraternity, by which the French mean brotherhood or community. A motto it shares with the great nation of Haiti. But the original slogan was actually liberty, equality, fraternity, or death, with death eventually being dropped as a bit heavy-handed. Now, this is important because it provides insight into the relative weight that was given by the revolutionaries to the three elements of the French motto. Now, the original revolutionaries understood the importance of liberty much more clearly than their successors. But the idea of true liberty and the true practical meaning of that word eluded them. When you give similar, much less equal, weight to the concepts of liberty, equality, and fraternity, it only takes a small philosophical slip to send you cascading into an inescapable logical contradiction. The motto itself morphed in and out of existence in the tumultuous decades following the Revolution until it was reestablished in 1848. By then, the meaning of the words equality and fraternity had become not just lofty goals to be achieved through liberty, but society-wide requirements to be imposed by force. In allowing this to happen, the French rendered the term liberté meaningless, since equality of outcome and putting community before individuality can only be achieved by suppressing liberty. This has unfortunately become the norm. We talk more about this elsewhere on this channel, but inequality is the natural human condition. And in fact, it's the natural condition, and in fact, a precondition of all life on earth. And it is required for humans to prosper. People today think that it's the government's job to use force to balance liberty with equality. In response, let me ask you this. Why do you think Patrick Henry didn't say, "Give me equality or give me death"? While the French were trying to use the guillotine to make some people more equal than others, the Americans, for the first time in world history, were assembling a society based on true liberty. The difference in meaning between the words "all men are created equal" and "all men are equal" cannot be overstated. The Americans, with the advantage of a large ocean between them and their increasingly despotic ruler, as well as, let's be honest, leaders of vastly superior moral integrity, built their society with liberty above all other considerations. all other considerations. And if there was any inconsistency, the underlying priority of liberty was very clear. For example, I'm embarrassed to say that when I looked up the French motto, it occurred to me I had no idea what the national motto of the United States is. Oops. Well, it is "In God We Trust." Yeah, I thought I'd seen that somewhere. Looking back 250 years or so and choosing between the French motto and the American, the French looks vastly superior to some of us. So why wasn't it? It's because what the French motto means is liberty, equality, fraternity, or else. It means something closer to legally required equality of outcome, not equality for all under the law. The American motto means something like, "In God we trust." And if you don't, that's on you. It was never meant to mean, "In God you must trust or else." This explains, I think, why the American ideal of liberty did not collapse immediately after the Revolution, while the French ideal pretty much did. It took around 140 years and the dreaded 16th Constitutional Amendment to begin our long, slow slide into the logical quagmire we find ourselves in today. But every time I start to think we'll never pull out of this philosophical tailspin, I realize it could be worse. I think about good old Etienne Cabot. I pronounce it that way just to annoy them. The patron saint of libertarian socialists who, after becoming frustrated with the speed of the socialist movement in his home country, decided he had found the perfect location to establish his socialist utopia. So he picked up his possessions and his followers and moved the whole kit and caboodle to the newly established state of Texas, USA. You can just imagine how well that went.